Hey everybody, Coax and Campstools here. I'm back at Fort Ord Dunes State Park yet again for another CW POTA activation. Went a little bit tried and true here with my end-fed half wave in an inverted V, but this time I went through 40, 20, 15, and 10 meter bands just to see how it performed on all those different bands, and I'll try to cut in here in a little bit the modeling of this antenna with all the different wavelengths running through it, so you can see how it propagates differently for each different band here in an inverted V. I had originally come here trying to use the fence as an antenna, but I had a hard time getting a good ground to it. I brought a little multimeter with me, so I'm not 100% sure if this is even doing anything, because I wasn't getting continuity between the 49-to-1 unun and this fence here, so it might be something to do with the finish or the rust. I don't know. So I just finished up actually. I was able to get a few Germany contacts and also one in England, and of course it was right at the end when the memory in my other camera was running out, so I don't know if that made it into the video. Brought the G90 because I thought I'd have to tune up the fence, and I know that I could tune a wet noodle with the G90. Ended up pushing 20 watts through the antenna just like I always do. 6 amp hour bio-anno battery, CWMorse paddle, and this is kind of a mess today because I was moving around a lot trying to get that fence to work, but it didn't happen today. 31-foot Jackite pole in the beautiful Monterey countryside. All right, let's get over. Thanks for watching. Taking a look here at MMANA-GAL, this is more or less how I have my end-fed half-wave set up when it's in an inverted V. So if we look down here in the corner, we can see some approximate dimensions. The highest point of this antenna is 9 meters. My pole is about 9.2 meters long, so that's pretty much in the ballpark. And we see that we have broadside of this antenna down the x-axis, which is what we want for these far field plots. And I'm just simulating the fence or the coax, whatever, with this little stub here. For what I'm trying to demonstrate, this is kind of moot. So we're going to take a look at this at 7 megahertz. So I started here on 40 meters, went 40, 20, 15, 10, all on the same antenna, no tune. We're going to disregard what we see here for this SWR. It's a little bit kooky. That's probably how I have it set up. So added height 0 meters because I built into it 1.5 meters off the ground, which is about how tall that fence is. Looking at 7 megahertz, looking at 7 megahertz where I got 2 contacts, which is the second and third ever 40 meter POTA contact for me. And we see it's working pretty well NVIS, which is what you'd expect for how long a 40 meter wavelength is. I'll show the 3D plot just for the sake of consistency, and we see most of my RF is going straight up. Where it starts getting interesting, and the reason why I always do this inverted V, or why I started and continue to do, is because of how the wavelengths fall on this wire. So playing around, this is why I do the inverted V. I used to spend a lot of time on 20 meters, and when I had it in an inverted V, see if I can demonstrate this just off the cuff, is we have a full wavelength. So we have the wavelength, I guess it starts over here, wavelength coming up, crossing right at the middle, and then the other half of that wavelength going on the other side. So what you get there is some pretty advantageous broadside gain when you have a full wavelength of wire fed from the end. So this is why I started setting up my antenna like this. I get that about 4.3 dBi broadside. Remember, showing off here, broadside is down the x-axis, and we can see the x-axis up here. 4.3 3D far field, looking pretty nice. And how that fence lines up there at Fort Ord Dunes State Park is perpendicular to the fence, puts me right through the center of the United States, which is exactly what I want. And we know we can use an end-fed half wave up here on 15 meters, and this is where it starts getting a little bit weird. So we see it's getting kind of weird now, where we now have 1.5 wavelengths on here. So we have a 15 meter where it's going to cross, maybe somewhere up here, and then we have that other half of the wavelength, and then the third half come up on this side. 8.3 dBi straight up, which would be good for NVIS if this wasn't 21 megahertz. This doesn't mean that this is a bad antenna for 15 meters. It just means that it's a little bit not as good. Mind you, I still hit Japan with this antenna set up this way on 15 meters. It's still gonna work. Now this doesn't look all that useful, but it's a little bit misleading because this is a 45-degree takeoff angle, so somewhere up in here. If we turn this down to 15 degrees, we see that this really isn't that bad. 2 dBi, 2 dBi. Now that's towards the feed point. And then about minus 0.3, minus 0.5, whichever, on the other side. Still more than enough for POTA, and you are still going to make contacts. And we can see 3D plot. This looks like a Pokemon. Everything's shooting straight up in the air with these little lobes coming off, and those little lobes are enough to get me what I want. And then last one, we're going to come over here to 10 meters. Take a look at it. As I mentioned, disregard this SWR. Come over here, and that's looking a little bit more useful. So we see about 4 dBi at approximately a 33-degree takeoff angle. A little bit high, but you're still going to make contacts.